the need that the student right now is the way for nothing about that from fast rate better to lab to the screen to the radio that any the student the remote bit of that to it is like now in the another that I say that again for us to not student take noting day you know that we more than one but like I'm looking at almost like an instantaneous manner like a different so that's the very first attempt itself of that phone to pray the level to get because that is that at that point the song was negative and subconscious so straight into that straight away so then that power is like and with that then create up the density that support to the extent of like basically the density of that power net to the new to that power plant so and that could be the scenario to be felt by the that we have also if like to the scenario that but if I have like that monster would be about to take out Maxine yeah and then the last second after the spring that would be exactly when to be the one thing to that right then the over the like 11 through all the train that within that house and the intensity of that for that mountain that was the great water to get perspective on Maxine and that way that can that the monster that totally at that point chicken trial free from matching to learn at that point and that is going to go out of learning and solely that way and that way so to make it example that and the story of like learning that so this being video in that how that's like I know that sort of the thing in that without realizing that indirectly fail of matching from the actual control of the like to the that I'm going to make them up and do I think on yes, like the legal right now the type of that maybe while it could be given that as the training for that relevant area of maybe like the training being in that to later so or like I'm the training to implement it such a way while making relevant apply for just like the other communities that are so so like we have 0.5 sec training. When we go through the training, like on the different like element, getting three glimpses towards glimpses of like answers towards like the last word and glimpses towards like which will be which will be answers that are going to be gaining and losing simultaneously. Uh, it's like the scenario while the training would be going on, it's like the scenario that way like everyone having while going through the training that everyone having of like the interaction between like Maxine and like Dr. and Steve and all that like this now that that all being so really worried and concerned about like Maxine and Maxine herself being so worried about like the deadline of like the very next day for like Maxine so like people that right now and like then they would that they are the friend like through these feelings of like right through the training like I'm and that through these like maybe so can you realize it that the situation, like the range of situation and critical situation of 1919 and 19 only having time on test, that's one more thing. It'll be along the lines of it would be along the lines that personal development that by going through the training which is having glimpses of that and we would be talking near realizing that in other direction that realization is something in that element even in some even more complete everything pushing to training to that definitely for us to be able to that regain back the powers before like the next day and for us to be able to like make it towards like 19 before like that take out my team Indian organized with that happening certain brain which are like to save my thing like like going to be some actually still thing into that training and that from that point on like personal that happens so like I'm going like then in case it becomes soon to get like the experience till 11 struggling to that fully regain that power and usually lack and then 20.5 it takes time for like and yeah at that point like when so and basically at that point like I'm left that now it's about the like when I take out that that will last again that's when I go that for like our focus is that for like and then will last again like regaining back some finally when that's regaining back full power so that's again back the power and even at like such extremes if that is intensity that will get back the power and that's a matter like that will last again like 11 straight away that actually can be the downward and straight away here instead of that full like the downward travel like and the define like wherever like there right in front of like the brain and like the initiate about things that as like the three will be often like my to like meditate and then we like really would be about to like I mean like right now would be about to take out mention of that then and that will never get in front of like in between like then meditating of their maintain as well as like now like in like the theory and with that up to this and like that will then be the from that 11 maybe like a challenging towards like now maybe getting stuff showing up like this with of like and it was not to that more lay hand on up front where the lines 11 maybe telex right now that actually see the like I thought even the body than out of that but like but at that point like job itself with like the now that I'm the and like at that point I'm just like 11 making that up challenge to like right now to that to take 11 on and see which like weapon I can it will 11 with your own line of the like when that up with you to make that up the challenge against like that now. And at that point I'm just saying that that kind of work that 11 but that will fearlessness of last 11 it's let us now that that certainly that challenge that the which you go of that like let's say the scenario that way like that or situation like created by 11 lakh and just coming to second lakh, but not deciding to like focus on like 11 and taking getting up to like at that point as like top to super in of 11. So like saying to another engineer that way like 11 so the non-boy like this the travel and through such an intervention of like 11 that they made 11 stated that thing that's the that is another thing and another thing. And maybe I'm just trying at that point like Justin and also I'm the fragmented right now maybe mentioned negative that all that happening in front of like presidency and also would be afraid and would be not knowing what to do to them imagine at that situation. But like I'm looking all of the that Steve and Justin and all of them being told is not going that what's going on. But like I'm looking that matching alone maybe at that point to be seen for that's because like entrance because like it's like a scenario that I think 11 saving 19 that that for scenario that in front of 19 alone because that scenario that was the point. So like uh like 11 that challenge to that that now like I'm mixing that now and that is like 9 11 saving 19 and would need at that point when substance also will be controlled like 19 to that as well mile of naturally that telling that something about that together that together would be around the like 19 of the like saying in scenario that I'm looking at the answer for other possibilities to like things for that might still and to be saying and point to that so like the team and the reaction right now it's certainly like maybe a flexible to get like maybe that starts well might have been having like positions and might have fall under like the front of like that might have been also the case that made us might have been after like the state as well as like front as well for taken off by the class that like maybe that's the council might have started to like how so to start like how we can send up to like what he had done in that side and that like at the beginning as well as that start job like experience it's certainly not very ambitious. So certainly I'm looking maybe like the other aspect might be inactively might have been confused and might have been maybe starting that thing along the line but like maybe like it's like when we feel into that this process that might represent like the spread of that which isn't that happening from what is just another maybe along the lines maybe a confused manner like uh that it would be only even though that such theory might be only challenging everything that like the research might have created for like learning of your career and everything that's still that might be around the line that the process might have usually get out to the and maybe that might be the reason for like in actuality maybe might be like might have been like the reason for like the therapist keeping that information on your page that to be as well as like front messages from Maxine recently. So Maxine has showed us like the Quran. So it's like same scenario. It's like my experience. So like the label thing right now for like as like she would be setting out the noise like about skills of new finding that the therapist in that taken out and take to like find out that question might have taken out check the therapist might have been what might have happened as might have been that it might have been the screen of like the therapist that like might have been like the notes that like Steve and like Maxine and the so might have might be like the case of like a positive that affects the problem can find out that the yes, so that the beginning of the that lab training might have that medium, the way to go and lab in like the state might have definitely been something like the crime itself and basically might have plain from like the might have been due to that the brain being crazy might have been like that situation certainly might be so certainly on the point it might have been from that same institution like mental fraud like basically the black for enough uh, uh, you might have been part of that method back then, like this transporting because they from like things to like method for like for another like for another like very first steps of it might have been disappeared and like the train might have gone wrong and this week a telecom people might have happened and this week that way which might have ended up trapped getting trapped in like the parallel might have been what might have happened. A case might have not opened but like a considering that the case might have gone from due to like the telecom first that the way might have gotten started like the bad was alone by that might have been might have happened and eventually and even at that point like the frame might have had like a tail like telecom power but like it might have been remaining in like a dormant like state that can definitely not correct it. So definitely at that point like run up might have from the variable might have assumed like that the way the experiment might ended up becoming a failure. But when it actually like the Telugu thought might have been very much alive, but like might have been only in like a as well as like the power of hell might have been very much alive here like that might have been only in like a sort of like state within that the might have been like specific way. So like the trap with the queen in like the family got injury might have got captured by the face of the monster who might have totally would keep the film in a similar situation as that of that full situation when the operators elected by water found it. And that might have been a conversion of to that convert the human into the state monster that will have might have got converted in the or time might have got converted to like a full monster like the bad one. And then eventually starting that giant mind flare might have eventually taken control of like the big humanoid most objective way might have been what might have happened. I lack the by lack the access of like then over like the space with like the shadow monster might have uh, seen like how it's a will have like this lack dormant dormant like delivering power that all this power to can so like that after taking it might have been after like the shadow monster taking control of like space with humanoid monster with states that understanding that the dormant today that was the field might have had finally had put that government delegate for that also put that for the Lincoln something and basically being able to lack like your full power that will might have happened only at that point and all this might have happened in like the reason for them might have been that so the government power the thing that the field might have reached sort of only like the and might be the rate of like the field and that related to train might have turned into like Vecna, with most of Vecna, with like like the inner most of it, like the basis might have been only the result of like the shadow most of like adding like elements of the shadow most of onto that the basic inner most of it will might have been put down between this inner most of into like an inner most of it, and that way that Vecna ending up then create might have been one might have so like for reasons that might be the expect that I might see that the expertise like this to that's definitely my position and that to be over. So like this is another trend to that. And also like a new friend what the strain might be doing might be that we should just that also just that current power like because we might have created like a whole lot of that tiny virus like might have like tiny virus and basically might have sent them on to that the real work of that Japan but using that it's still most likely hosting second of might be the case. So like that like that so a combination of both of that in my respect and then that of that tiny mindset element kind of focusing quite of to that happens and that way like anticipating that the code that like city as well as that threat as well as like maximum concern that on topping like a different like spider might have been hiding in the food, as well as that everyone in that house that they that recently while searching for using his lag powers lag, everyone he saw there might have been all lag individuals from Hawkins might have that way through like the food might have organized that just like the reflect the element of like the mantra so that the time by might be like that to the way to definitely might experience so that so that it might be how that way being able to that create that represents for that for those that accepted and find individual and they might be only able to that way so that more that exit that on the consumption will might be that now and they might be the same person and that they that's not with things having that thinking about this that now would be not that they able to that remotely use from like the paradigm without owning again to affect its life that target the sector target is at the real one and that might be how that the way uh, like not put out like the thing that that's correct step might be very right now. So that technique like yeah right now that's like right now my biggest trend is trying to like figure out like the situation before like mentioned kinds of and personally what like trying to like fit like the bucket together like 21 when I can like be like that right now right now definitely my brain. So the able to bring like things to that without it really like coming down to the conclusion that they need sit like but not is not it's not taking off 81 like instantly that it's like one target after another like basically and so like the symptoms of that thing different like about to manage according to my figures like about like a week or like 5 days and basically it's after like doing like predictions after like 24 hours like basically yeah the target getting taken out like basically and the different managing that would be really come down to that like to remove like an infection like and basically it's only like infected one way of that like now would be able to like control and take out and definitely like so that and definitely sort of like the without really like coming down to like on this as well as for like the all the past victims like basically including like friends as well as like repeat as well as like making like them or having experienced that their first symptom most likely while on that day or like during that time period like they were close to a specific location might be around the lines of the without really like come down to such a conclusion and it would be so that whatever is causing like the infection like basically it next might be around that exact specific area so they can find the next of that whatever causing like the infection and then they find out what exactly is it and how exactly is like the infection is being found then they will be able to like destroy it and will leave that way that they uh, prevent like matching from they can find it out before that matching time is up like they need then like they will be able to like save matching will be around the line of like the conclusion that I'm going like towards the end of like matching before comparing writing that is the matching come down to through the writing that is like only the ultimate plan that I'm matching will be writing to like solve situation for my team to be able to like Steven of the health to be able to like tell the like when it come down to the demonstrated and the very select Steve and the like the scenario that I was going to bring along to him. So that's what is very ambitious right now. Certainly for that basically for and that work like that we can probably able to think of and let them think to talking to the remain idea. Extremely tight about that is a great topic and the importantly getting updated by that Netflix and Robin, no matter how much that prices that Nancy and Robin will be going to get information out of that document like a connection, neither allowing Nancy on like Robin to that to go to like the suppose of self of that survey, no like in even meaning title that no even though living and all that anything and all about access to and after that select every day. That's the scenario that and then that way like bring like Matthew and Robin the Gunner is just like a different most likely for like specifically about for like any scenario about like Robin being playing the role of like the distraction role and Robin of like any creating the two while then being on the point. secretly sneaking in to like the institution and basically going up doing that the sense of like the grade and that and that we getting that the show the point of that finding the self of like the grade and the like the scenario that and then after different that or like and then Robin that then we following and spying on that the doctor has like that they are looking at that point like them uh, finding out that basically not like they at that point like some times like might be going to someone and there's little bit tracking like someone like they're talking about and they need how this two suspicious woman like they two suspicious woman like they argument about them with the way they are on the lines that Dr. Hatch would be that make a phone conversation at that point with like about pregnancy and Robin Stanley buying off like the scenario and that conversation and fulfilling people is like either that phone conversation or has been to with like run up like one was of desirable and the them like how has made it been like and like mental craft and like also like the remote possible desirable so like that photo that you like about has been with like run up is like the one of the desirable and then after like maybe for like a scenario or like either it being through like or hearing like spying and or hearing like the conversation of that has and at the end probably like come down to the conclusion that like the queen itself is like pregnant is like one of the dynamic or like I'm like and can probably like after spying on like the conversation that so being that blackmail it of cat being at that point like the cat being goes to that within like the truth about like the scenario that according to the might have happened like at my was like working at like McDonald's and all with that about the manufacturing that might have been technically and basically that way that it's getting like it's ending up wrong and like they ending up getting trapped yeah ending up preparing with the along the lines of the going from the hand like with me leading to like so and the other at that point like and reason that like so with the brain like then they are able to like expand world so that the it itself might be natural to that now again of the line that they are probably really come down to that because that is the positive that is the development and the trend right so when you like the play like them by now that we were like of the kind to that still say no you can open like a rather like extremely emotional and long speed strategy something like that as well early would fail with that single like after my now switch of orbit by has to be just again that has to do with no super that 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 the scenario that we have to bring up right now and that game is going to be then and at that point I'm considering that he's telling that Dr. Hatch that with me for his own that they would like to name that the low security area within that includes the develop the right like and until that time it becomes to negative and just lack of that one like it now that select while lack of hands that will different taking friendly and how to that the low security areas like I'm saying that one like 90% serving like the area we are also the building inclusion building and like you can see planning for like any little returns to the building like the middle of the night for that as well can be different. I'm glad having that's a bit of like the leader of that institution building. So we can claim right now we certainly for like how with that like you take out that one dark and basically to that income of that shirt from that one with black wall with black is another that so like by the time that the other guard will be running and entering like the shirt like one reaction like we and so now it's really that we're finding that whole thing about like the corner of like the shirt I tell them like one of the guard black in that taken off and it's so like at that point, Silva and like Enzo is stepping in and basically is going to like that and basically only telling that other guard to that Enzo will definitely get and so will be the night like Enzo and they will be selling to that guard and they just straight away running after like over that person that and that way like it was point that corporate and so plan working out for corporate and get to another that way like that and do that making it towards that the getting well like the airplane would be and that of getting on the airplane and the plane and that. And that way, like on the another one point scenario can be like the associated with like and you're most likely and for much being like most likely being committed like that at that point. Definitely that person like take uh out of that structure and then point like to do the thing like the scenario that I'm going and that point like and before like leaving like like in the telling of to that only create that make it seem as if like they create of against the also indoors and be managed to like a so like that way like a different like indoor like getting a lot of like injury by the time that info maybe with the injury to be returning back to that camp to the percentage that we need while sitting on that up to take it in the like basically compact lab basically managed to like get to get on friends technical leader right and to take it in but like a like without necessarily that like make sure you get lag showing up and basically at that point I'm totally putting lag chance and failure of lag to without necessarily delay that and that thing finding out about lag allow that info doing a trader and they stay and help of scale lag but they would find that the uh material lag to be finding out the documents regulate like in the scenario that I was doing that way like that information like taking out that job without regulating to select the up like of the book in reflection scenario that I was looking in and so that the management right now is that the plan is total absence of land skill level and number of maintenance and might be so this is the thing they feeling that is the sustainable trend of like the possibility of land magazine like is the land having the chance trying to an article of land getting from the situation from situation is like magazine things like there is another that so like so like for like the project announcing magazine will be wanting to see for like one like right now that we're taking just like move on like 19 like at that point for like 19 to be like the possible trust point might be like the down thing 19 into body that even the previous move that they bring that due to the reason like I'm looking like 19 that out that I'm looking bring that even 19 handling skill and to take up to that specific house might have been the lead dancing from the like 19 trying to that get to escape from the front and be as far away from this one that it would be time for like one segmenting time would be able to get up the lines of that exam that might be of that the top priority organization. So it might be that 10 to 50 days for the opening. So like I'm saying some like the background of that house like that might be turning off on our own and then get a strong that fever but then all of them was left in the night set up the program like and frame. Okay, so that luckily my particular section right now is that lab. But now might be that survey might be like the parallel version of that way from like go back and see what like you know in like the parallel world like you might have been that the very first perspective of like the parallel world must runners like experiment all the way back around or like close to like 1950 in like the parallel world so back then, like, like the battle world might have been like an exact, almost exact of like the real world of the minor things at all. Like there might have been some like like the battle world exactly like the real world might have been like the case of human brain, which so to speak. It might have been like the battle world of from like basically capturing specifically that might have that the battle version of Australia might have the multiple to inform like the battle and at that point an extremely powerful telekinesis might have happened, and at that point, the project so the backwards street might have been extremely powerful. And might have gained also the power, might have been what made have happened as a million threat. So like the moment like the backwards like it might have gained all those steps, the power like a telekinesis skills might have happened, and like at that point, I was trying that instead of that again to that the real world like in that again to that other dimension might have been what might have a huge scale like that was might have created a huge case from like the transfer to multiple other dimensions from which like spanning from that sky might have been what might have happened. At that point like the sunlight might have disappeared and like sky might have turned dark and like then the transfer might have turned dark and like the giant at that point and that what might have happened might have been like the giant shadow of the might have injured the battle bird and I'm from like it might have been like the giant shadow one from that might have planted like the seed on the seed of like the plant that winds and plant that wind mountains onto that thing that underground onto that the battle bird might have been what might have happened. It's like in the when that the wind might have started with a platform for like the bad word might have been the started with the clean up trend. So that even at that point of the point like that might have been a balance between that the bad version of the train at the like the shadow of the image like and like the plan version of that the train might have been and might have also like even like the giant shadow monster might have been like a method of the human trend. So like that point of the spring that typically starts like typical like the great variable of the great might have taken on like the giant shadow monster and like the giant shadow monster at the point might have stopped. It's like battling against like the uh uh stop with that land might have started like to the like the overall the bigger friend of like the family that the train might have been like an atom of the brain. So like at that point like the bad version of at that point like the bad version for an opponent might have taken off might have been also been the train. So like that point like the parallel version of like it will might have felt like that like absolute ultimate for individuals might have been like he might have felt and that's why I'm looking at the parallel version of that when they might have felt that that they'll be creating his own new world that reshaped like the entire thing like the world a parallel world and basically creating his own world in which that thing alone will be like the one and might be along the end that parallel version that is might have felt supplement and definitely I mean like eventually the bad versions of the field might have realized that it is in like the bad world like another one that might it's like a phenomenon where like whenever there's something like the parallel world the bad version of the film like the real world in like the bad world gets taken out there might be absolutely no effect that on like the real world on that very thing like real version of like that individual in the real world might be detected today but like whenever someone on like the real world gets taken on like the like exact parallel version it like the individual in like parallel version individual in like the parallel world might simultaneously get taken off might lose that the phenomenon that might actually might be reflected of the there at this point. So eventually and like protecting like the what like the plan like point that might have started which might have been all according to like, the agreement of that uh, agreement and decision of that the band of the train might have been like the case to create this like new code new pattern that might have been like the remembering so that then that's why might have been when like still might have the pattern of the train might have even figured out about like this phenomenon and basically about like how that like the system like the real world and not like the parallel world and how like the real world affects like the parallel world and everything might have been like the good complementary and become both like the sharp like monsters as well as like flying current flying monsters of like the parallel world as well as like the things that similar most of us can language or might be through like the wines of like wine diagnosis of like the parallel world state Japanese taking all this like animals and parallel versions of like animals and humans so like the parallel world might be that how like the basic general numbers as well as like all these like sound like numbers and all these numbers and might have been created is definitely not created. So that may have been for eventually that once that the field might have found out about how that the real world affects that the existence of like the plan world like at that point of the like it might have also in its mind to like actually definitely to finding like the real world version of that which the parallel version of that is real human corporate might be around the next and the parallel version of that it might also systems might and especially the reason might be because like the actual distribution maybe might be that like one like any student in like the parallel world like will inform like the real whenever like any student gets like captured by like and transformed by like the wines of like the monsters wines of like the man but like has gets turned into like a monster like a McLean like the might at that point through the transformation monster and it will turn into like a monster like the monster might get immortalized might be like that with the million friends. So the shadow monster as well as like the famous monster of like as well as like the dark like monsters how the monster like the man might be born and immortalized and like being like that they get into this million and that's through both will take down like what is one of my and feeling of it like it's probably that with some of my experience that should be like this friends and it might be one like with the real might out realize that like real might have like this to get up on the well but to get to like a stick like the message lines of like the bad one spreading all across and taking on over to like the entire thing the bad one might be along the line like that maybe at that point that like the might have also decided that so on find that real world work so that and they release it not so on possible working till and have that the mindset like the password how to able to express into that real world and take control of that and focus that and turning to control like the mind speed and be able to that not like that somehow to have that the basic standard of the master of that word somehow be able to like integrate into the real world and be able to capture like the fortunate trail, the next rail that and to transform it into that amount of that they could actually localize that the railroad with your trade before like the railroad gets taken off to any might be along the line of that fear like the translation that we might have had a settlement and yeah, like we might have had like so much of power telekinesis power and also power anything like of that like to light up on the and might have that to like doing system and like that way like use of the power like we might have totally found and located land. So the end goal sort of like so that after like locating the real world goes around like different way like and then all functional kind of like a parallel just like they might have fade away use that like might have at that point it might have started to like give solutions to that maybe the technology might have started to like give solution to more like give solution to like the real world to have like the real world thing that take up some of that kind might have been what had happened through such a way might have been what and like after that like realistic manner of doing that like the man that they might have been planning on like basically creating like the gate and having that the and bringing like and taking the post share cycle to that move that real world towards like the man world and it leads to take on that and to reference on like the real world real into like a more subject right? And that is like a more like that by immortalizing like the real world into like also for like the bad version of like real they might have by them turning to like the more subject like but they want like they look like the head of like the like the transformation by both like the game general as well as that so like and by then like all the people figure out most of the mechanisms so might have been more seeing like the validation of the freelance they're absolutely so like they might have been told like the standard of it create like concept and like they might have found like the parameters between if to like amount of risk like it might have been one minute of understanding so the beginning that point like the value might have been planning like basically after like making that the real world with the real and something that crime that is need to have that to open the game to work that the real world to real and have that the real world to so to have the real world real and like the pan world and basically to like turn like the real world real I don't know like the real world real to like more some I don't and to like more some idea of kind of like the pan that's pan world like real might have had but like the moment the back version of the still might have unfortunately that they made like the another one might have made like the rainbow to play commit that find that at that point I was right and like the plant version of like it might have like except how with like all of this like power exactly like how 11 lost had like lost some like power like and the big same thing that between might have happened in that the paradox like that put in that thing like over something out with like how I might take one made a back to something like that. So like the paradox will be great might have over cost and output that out way create the extent compared to how much like 11 times about might be like that within the business like about the data so like family like of all the data like 90 could be like the power for the powers of like the band was like in state right of they went on into like a dominant like state where they are doing what they have and protecting and thriving. Yeah, like even at that point like like there all the most of the band was like the thing to not want to like then might have long taken advantage of that situation of technical fail, the parallel motivation, but instead might have still been doing like the parallel to fail and accidentally eventually it will be again that put like or it will on the line like the most not like the parallel might have been doing 50 minutes frame. So like it might since from background knowledge might have been according to them the orders of like the bad version of that system fail who might have been something as basically waiting for like storm about the length of the since moderate actions like 1950 like and the like eventually once like to prevent that prevent like some like the state was like of the able to like the parallel. At that point, I would feel like the parallel like it might have realized about it, and since then, I'm saying it might have been the parallel of the giving all of the like the dance show of the right like the ancient one the uh, might be and all this like things might have been going on since then. So like all the uh, uh, attempt of that infiltrating into that career or that the thing describe the other thing like to that around the really fit in like the mark might have been all active and activity might be all like the order of like the conversion of their real like the man goes along that who might be like their little like the value version of that who might be at like that of thing on the like state put like from like might be like a good experience so like it might have been recently that but like my history understands that like by the time like this theory might have usually started to like slavery again then like how like it might have happened like naturally of the course of like such great years all the way from like 1950 to like the time period when like the train thing like academic might be like again so that like that recovery and the provision of like the case like also might be happening in like an extremely slow pace might be like that they must be might be the reason for like failure and like basically not being able to like straight away target like basically straight away target and the consumer brain system like the actual brain in like the real world to like amount of might be like that just might be the reason for like the bad work of really transparent that the actual real world is I don't might be due to that most like they're being about the brain they're being that consequence and like most likely if like the actual real world gets taken out like the bad version of the real husband might get instantly taken out like the consequence might be that how that's a real world and real world might be connected. Definitely not credit that might be due to that the limitations in like how much like the power of like the bandwidth of the brain or like the NAS might have that so far that might be the reason for like the bandwidth from that will slowly happen to that basically take out like the will that like problems like one by one and slowly be able to like make it towards like the real world with the film might use one that the converse of the really might be right now. I think so that the same different that text that it's still that were like the real world of really that simple step into that into some kind of state might be more like the far the border like end of like the sound talking from that from where that pronouncing like the sound had basically open the game in common might be that that will be the name of it. Even in that in the case of like that people are talking about the number of the like the morning for like the game of almost like open up well like even from that these two point to like the distance to that distribution where like the same currently contain like that the distance might be like extremely extreme when compared to like the total distance or diameter or like the total distance like often then after that the sound might be that actually the details and this is like really to the spirit of like the sound scale and like the specification of like the real world scale might be for might be the maximum almost like the maximum might be the reason for like the parameters like the scale or being able to actively make it towards like the real world would say might be like the actual situation of the so that the balance of like it's that's actual main target might be so that one of the person to be able to like make it towards that the real world with the real and like capture and surroundings into like the monster and that way to the normalize him might be along the lines of like the aspect of privacy of that with the way of that background the bandwidth of the trade of like the friends and background might have been sent that time definitely might have been like the case like about 50 benefits from your friend